I'm Harper, 32 years old. 10 years ago, my family erased me for refusing to forge an art appraisal. My sister Chloe took over the gallery. My father called it a necessary sacrifice. I left with nothing but my ethics and a name no one dared mention. Now I've been anonymously hired to verify a collection for a major Aspen Gala. The same gala launching their next big deal. They don't know I'm the one coming. But I know exactly what they've been hiding. Before I continue my story, where are you watching from? Hit that like and subscribe button. If you've ever been betrayed by your own blood, trust me, you'll want to hear how this unfolds. I'm Harper Lane, and the last time I sat at the long mahogany dining table in my family's Aspen estate, it was snowing outside, just like now. My sister Chloe raised her wine glass, her voice syrup-smooth and polished, like the antique silverware she so proudly curated. "To clarity," she said with a smirk, "we've all agreed. You have until Friday to move out." My fork paused halfway to my mouth. I looked around the table. No one met my eyes. Not our father Russell, retired gallery magnate with a reputation as refined as his collection of stolen provenance, nor the two attorneys seated beside him, both pretending to focus on their crème brûlée. The words didn't register right away. Move out? From the guest house I had restored after Mom passed, the one I'd lived in quietly for the last 3 years while working odd jobs and studying art verification techniques late into the night? I had nowhere else. I thought I'd misunderstood. "Is this a joke?" I asked, my voice low. Chloe didn't blink. "It's a business decision. You've been squatting on estate property without a formal lease, and we're finalizing preparations for the Lane Collection expansion. You no longer fit the brand." The attorneys flinched. "You mean the gallery?" I asked, stunned. "The one Mom built from scratch? That we used to run out of her minivan?" Chloe looked bored. "The one you walked away from the moment you couldn't fake an appraisal for the Alvarez piece?" "Yes. That gallery." I turned to my father. He was the one who taught me the basics of identifying brushstroke inconsistencies and pigment aging. The man who used to take me to estate sales just to test my eye. He didn't look at me. "It's already been decided," he said. "You were offered a path forward, Harper. You refused. Now you're simply being excluded from something you chose to reject." My hands trembled, not from shock, but from how methodical it all was. They had planned this. The dinner invitation, the pretense of civility, the lawyers already seated. Chloe even wore Mom's earrings, emerald studs she had sworn she hated as a teenager. Now they sparkled against her skin like some twisted badge of inheritance. No one said goodbye when I left the room. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. But I did take one final look at the oil painting above the fireplace. It was supposed to be a Turner original. I knew better. The signature was wrong, and the canvas hadn't even yellowed correctly with age. That lie had always hung over us, and now it was just one more part of the house I would leave behind. Betrayal doesn't always come with slamming doors. Sometimes it arrives dressed in luxury, cloaked in civility, and delivered over dessert. I walked out into the snow with only one thought. If they wanted me gone, fine. But someday, they'd remember exactly what I was capable of, without faking a single thing. The week after they kicked me out, I lived in my car. A rusted blue station wagon with a broken heater and a back seat full of rolled-up gallery pamphlets I'd once designed for free. Aspen in January isn't forgiving. My fingers went numb overnight, and I'd drive in circles just to stay warm. Every time I passed a billboard advertising the Lane Collection's upcoming gala, I felt like a ghost, staring at a party I wasn't even allowed to haunt. Chloe erased me like I was bad press, and my father didn't so much as send a text. It wasn't just personal. They rewrote history. The website took my name off old exhibitions I curated. Chloe gave interviews claiming she'd built the gallery from humble beginnings, omitting the fact that I was the one who brokered the gallery's first big donation after Mom died. Every quote that should have been mine had her voice printed on it. I thought erasure would feel loud, like a slap. But it was quiet, efficient even, like a file deleted from a desktop. And the worst part? It worked. Friends stopped returning calls, colleagues avoided me, people knew the lane name carried weight, and no one wanted to cross it. Chloe painted me as unstable, difficult. A creative liability, one curator whispered to another at a gallery I once interned at. I heard it while standing 2 feet away, pretending to examine a fake Rembrandt. I almost gave up. I lived on instant noodles and temp gigs, cleaning out storage lockers, editing estate inventories. One night, I was verifying an estate item for a man named Kessler when I found a forged signature on a supposedly rare sculpture. I flagged it politely, gave him a quiet way to back out of the lie. Instead, he thanked me, not just for my eye, but for my tact. The next day, a manila envelope showed up at the shipping center where I worked part-time. Inside was a business card. Logan Quinn, private collector and appraiser. He was Chloe's estranged godfather, once branded a traitor for leaving the family art business and exposing a restoration scam in Paris. I barely remembered him, but I'd helped him once, years ago, when I defended him during a family dinner no one else dared to speak at. He remembered that. "They've burned every bridge but the one you tried to keep intact," he told me when we met in a backlot coffee shop. "You were the only one who didn't speak with a price tag." I laughed bitterly. "And I got erased for it." He leaned forward. "Then build something so real, so honest, so good. They can't erase you again. I've got space. I've got tools. But I need someone with your eye." That was the day True Provenance was born. Not as a business. Not yet. Just an idea between 2 people the Lane family had discarded. I didn't want revenge. I wanted air. A place where art meant truth. Where every canvas told the real story, not the one Chloe printed in glossy catalogs. I had nothing left. And for the first time in years, that meant I had nothing to lose. We set up in an old printing warehouse an hour outside Aspen, dusty skylights, cracked concrete floors, and a busted security system that chimed randomly in the middle of the night. Logan called it character. I called it barely functional. But it was ours. I slept on a cot behind a stack of antique crates, ate peanut butter from the jar, and spent every waking hour building the foundation of what would become True Provenance. We didn't advertise, no social media, no business cards. Logan used word of mouth through his underground network of collectors, while I reviewed pieces quietly, meticulously, making sure every stamp, frame, and signature held up to scrutiny. Within 6 months, rumors spread that a new verifier was operating under the radar, one who couldn't be bought, one who refused commissions if a piece felt off, no matter how high the price. Our client list grew, slowly but with weight. A museum in Taos, a retired historian in Charleston, a discreet European buyer who shipped items under initials only. And through it all, my name never appeared. The anonymity was part protection, part design. I didn't want the Lane name poisoning this. I was tired of being the scandal, the footnote, the girl who got too emotional about authenticity. Here, I was just the eye. Logan called me that. He'd say, "Let the eye look at it first." Clients listened. Over time, our tiny warehouse grew into a polished restoration loft with a glass-cased workroom and controlled lighting rigs. We installed a paper trail vault, thermal imaging tech, and even a lab station for pigment testing. True provenance wasn't just a business, it became a quiet authority. The industry started whispering our name in the same breath as the Getty's verification board, and that's when it happened. A consulting request came in from a prestigious gallery in Aspen preparing for a high-profile exhibit. They needed a discreet pre-audit on 12 pieces for an exclusive gala launch. No promotional rights, NDA enforced, anonymous team preferred. I scanned the contract. The letterhead read, "The Lane Collection." I laughed out loud. Chloe wanted her name to be flawless, and now she was about to hand her entire gala collection to me. I didn't reveal myself. Not yet. Logan looked at me over his glasses when I showed him the file. "You sure you want to walk into that room again?" I nodded. "They tried to erase me. Now I'll verify every inch of their truth." He didn't smile, didn't gloat. He just passed me the gloves, the magnifier, and the access badge. Time to inspect the family legacy, piece by fraudulent piece. The gala was held in the heart of downtown Aspen, in a converted stone bank now lined with skylights and vintage bronze sconces. The event had been advertised for weeks, an exclusive unveiling of The Untouched Century, a collection Chloe claimed had been assembled from private donors and restored under the Lane family's proprietary curation. The guest list read like a who's who of the American art elite: museum directors, philanthropic heiresses, investment collectors. No one knew that underneath the glamour and hors d'oeuvres was a ticking bomb of lies. I arrived through the back entrance 3 hours early, disguised not with costume, but confidence. Hair tied tight, black blouse, slacks, gloves in my pocket. No makeup. Just the badge. Harper Wren, independent appraisal consultant. Logan had booked the job under a subsidiary firm we quietly controlled. My name hadn't touched the paperwork until I allowed it to. Inside the storage gallery, I began my audit. One painting, in particular, caught my breath. A Rhodes still life allegedly painted in 1924. But the brushwork showed microscopic irregularities. A 3D scan confirmed the pigments included quinacridone magenta, not available until the 1950s. Another piece, a supposed mid-century sculpture, had a weld that was too clean, too machined. And then, the kicker. A supposed Frontera original that bore the exact same craquelure pattern as a piece I'd verified 6 months ago, because it was the same piece, repainted, framed differently, signed with a knockoff stamp. By the time I finished my notes, I had enough evidence to ruin not just the gala, but the Lane Collection's entire accreditation. Logan joined me in the loading area, where I handed him the sealed report. "You want to blow the whistle now?" he asked. I shook my head. "They'll try to bury it if it's done in private." "So you're going public?" "At the podium." When the gala opened, I stayed in the shadows at first, watching from behind the champagne towers. Chloe was radiant, dress tailored, smile media trained, hands perfectly choreographed. She hadn't changed, only evolved into a glossier version of the same woman who once told me, "No one cares about the truth if the frame is pretty." My father stood beside her, now older, slower, still wielding his quiet authority. People came up to shake his hand, and he nodded as if he'd painted every canvas himself. The MC eventually called Chloe to the stage to introduce the keynote speaker. She took the mic, made a gracious introduction, then paused as I stepped into the light. "Actually," I said, "there's been a last-minute change." The crowd turned, a few confused murmurs spreading. "My name is Harper Lane," I continued, "and I've just completed an independent verification of the pieces you're all here to celebrate." My father's eyes narrowed. Chloe's smile froze. "Of the 12 works exhibited tonight," I said, "clearly 5 have been confirmed as forgeries, 3 have improper provenance, and 2 are repainted under false authorship. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. The silence carried it for me. These findings have been submitted to the FBI's Art Crimes Division. Then I stepped down. Security didn't stop me. The guests parted. Chloe didn't follow. Neither did my father. But Logan was already by the door, holding it open. "You burned their whole name down," he whispered. "No," I said. "They lit the fire. I just turned on the lights." The morning after the gala, I woke to a barrage of calls, emails, and press inquiries. But none of that surprised me. What did surprise me was the envelope waiting outside my door. No postage, just my name in my mother's handwriting. I hadn't seen it in over a decade. She died 6 years ago, supposedly from complications related to heart failure. But this letter had been sealed long before. I opened it with shaking hands. Inside was a handwritten note dated a month before I was disowned. "Harper, I know what they're planning. I wanted to fight for you, but I've grown so tired. They say I'm not well enough to make legal decisions, but I see it all clearly now. I'm sorry I didn't protect you. This world worships reputation, but reputation is paper thin. You are steel. If they erase you, build your own world. And if you read this, know that I never stopped believing you were the best of us." I couldn't move for several minutes. Just sat there on the floor, letter pressed to my chest, wondering how a woman so silenced could still scream through a page. I didn't cry, but something inside me settled, like a puzzle piece finally snapped into place. That afternoon, Chloe sent a press release claiming the gala had been sabotaged by a disgruntled former associate with personal vendettas. She never used my name, but the implication was clear. Still, public trust unraveled quickly. Buyers demanded refunds, publications rescinded glowing features, and then the FBI confirmed an official investigation had begun. The Lane name, once synonymous with elegance and authenticity, was now trending under hashtags like #GalleryGate and #ForgeryFamily. Meanwhile, Logan and I finalized the deal that had been brewing quietly in the background. A major museum in San Francisco had offered to buy out our entire appraisal pipeline, naming True Provenance as their exclusive consultant for all estate acquisitions. On signing day, Logan and I posed for a photo. Just us, a few team members, and my partner Rowan, who had stood by me since the van days. I uploaded the photo to my professional page with a single caption: "We don't sell art, we sell truth." Within hours, it went viral. That night, Chloe sent me a single message: "You could have just called." I didn't reply. I forwarded it to Logan, who responded with a shrug emoji and the words, "Too late for charity." My father never reached out. But weeks later, I saw him interviewed outside the gallery, stone-faced, humiliated, deflecting every question. He said, "We were misled by experts we trusted." I smiled. That was the last lie he'd ever get to tell under the Lane name. My mother was right. Reputation is paper thin. I didn't want it anymore. I built something stronger. And I didn't need their name to do it. In the weeks that followed, Aspen's glittering art scene quietly turned its back on the Lane family. Their gallery closed its doors for renovations, but never reopened. Collectors began demanding provenance reports for pieces they'd once bought on blind faith, only to discover cracks in the stories, if not the canvases themselves. Lawsuits were filed. One by one, the family's so-called allies vanished. Chloe disappeared from social media, and for the first time in years, her perfect face wasn't on a magazine cover or charity flyer. I heard she fled to Europe, attempting to rebrand as a consultant for emerging galleries, but no one trusted her judgment anymore. As for my father, Russell Lane, he retreated to his home in Telluride and stopped giving interviews. I imagine he sits surrounded by pieces that no longer hold their worth, because the signature on the plaque is now a liability, not an asset. I never wanted to ruin them. That's what people never understand. I didn't do this for revenge, not in the petty, scorched earth way they think. I did it because no one should get to rewrite truth with money. Because I had been erased, and if I stayed silent, others would be too. The irony? I never had to raise my voice. I let the facts speak louder. Today, True Provenance employs 15 people, many of them like me, cut off, underestimated. People who know the price of silence. We don't work for prestige. We work for authenticity. We don't chase headlines. But sometimes, they chase us. A few months ago, an old neighbor emailed me. She said, "I showed your story to my daughter. She's applying for an internship at your firm. You've built something honest, Harper. You didn't just survive, you set a standard." I printed that email and framed it above my desk. Not to remember what I lost, but to remind myself, rebuilding isn't about vengeance. It's about creating something so real, so grounded, that no one can ever fake it again. Not even blood. Especially not blood. Some legacies are inherited. Others are built from ash. Mine? It wasn't passed down in wills or whispered through family dinners. It was carved through rejection, shaped by grit, and polished by truth. When I walk into the True Provenance office now, I see a reflection of the world I once begged to be part of, except this one was forged by choice, not obligation. We don't name rooms after donors. We name them after whistleblowers, after restorers, after the unseen hands that bring clarity to chaos. A teenager from Kansas once sent me a sketch of our logo, reimagined with wings. "You gave truth a way to fly," she wrote. I never met her, but that letter sits folded in my wallet, worn soft from unfolding. Legacy isn't about revenge. It's about what survives you, and who gets to define the truth after you're gone. My family believed legacy was about ownership. I've learned it's about stewardship. One protects a name, the other protects meaning. And if I've done one thing right, it's this. I made sure the truth didn't die buried beneath expensive frames and perfect lies. I made sure the story was told, on my terms. Family betrayal cuts the deepest because it's not just about lies or money. It's about trust being broken where you should have felt safest. In Harper's story, the betrayal didn't come with a bang, but with silence. Legal signatures, exclusion, and the weaponization of appearances. Her refusal to falsify documents for the family gallery wasn't just a personal stance. It was a stand for integrity in a world where family legacy was being built on fraud. That choice cost her everything: home, reputation, belonging. But what it gave her in return was far more enduring: clarity, self-worth, and a path forward untethered from shame. For American audiences grappling with dysfunctional families, toxic legacies, or the pressure to play nice in the name of unity, this story speaks to a universal truth. Walking away isn't weakness, it's power. And sometimes the best revenge isn't public humiliation, it's rebuilding quietly, with integrity so solid they can't erase it, even when they pretend you never existed. Harper didn't win by screaming the loudest. She won by letting the truth speak for itself. Her success wasn't in destroying her family, but in choosing a different kind of family, one rooted in earned respect and shared values. The lesson? Sometimes forgiveness is a form of self-liberation, but sometimes silence is the sharpest knife. You don't need to shout to be heard. You just need to live so boldly in your truth that it echoes louder than any lie ever could. In today's world, where we're often told to reconcile for the sake of keeping the peace, or to stay quiet to avoid making waves, this story reminds us: peace built on silence isn't peace at all. It's a cage, and your freedom begins the moment you choose truth over comfort, ethics over approval, and healing over illusion. Whether you're the black sheep in your family, or someone who's been manipulated, dismissed, or used, remember this: your value isn't determined by how much you sacrifice to be accepted. It's determined by how much you're willing to walk away from to stay whole. How to get started today. 1. Write down one boundary you wish you had set years ago and set it now. 2. Unfollow or silence voices, online or offline, that thrive on guilt or control. 3. Do one small thing today that honors your truth, not their expectations. 4. Research one step toward building something of your own, however small. If this story hit close to home, leave a comment below. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you're ready for more stories like this, raw, real, and resolute, subscribe. You're not alone, and you're not powerless.